तो ऐसा क्या हुआ कि हर इंसान एक्सपर्ट बन गया? How is it possible that all of us pretty much have an opinion on everything? Not just an opinion, critical opinion. When it comes to giving advice, when it comes to giving suggestions, all of us are experts. When it comes to our lives, maybe not so much. But इसमें सारी गलती हमारी नहीं है. So all of this started hundreds of years ago. In a world today where everyone's a critic and no one reads past the headline, a man named John Dryden would have not just survived, he would have set the standard. Before hot takes, there was wit. Before armchair reviews, there were thinkers who actually earned their opinions. We're living in a world today where the difference between opinion and fact and truth has gone missing. There are so many people around us who don't understand the difference between opinion and fact. And in 17th century England, John Dryden emerged as the first English literary critic, a poet, a playwright, and an essayist who believed that criticism is an art form of its own. We're talking about a world where people had to earn the right to be a critic. Welcome back to Literary Lenses, the time travel series where we meet the thinkers who transformed reading, writing, and everything in between. The 17th century in England was a whirlwind of sorts. Theatres had just reopened after the Puritan ban. England was rebuilding after civil war and plague. French neoclassicism was all the rage around. And everyone was arguing about what good literature even meant. Into this chaos walked John Dryden, poet laureate, master of satire, and a man afraid to blend scholarship with swagger. In 1668, he published a very famous book, An Essay of Dramatic Poesy. It was a game-changing text that defended drama, that debated artistic standards, and essentially invented modern English criticism. Dryden's contributions weren't just literary, they were deeply methodological. In his writing, he explored, number one, the role of the critic. What is the role of the critic? He said it was not to judge harshly, but to interpret fairly, and to balance tradition with innovation. Number two, he believed art imitates life, but it's a filtered version. So Dryden was building on Aristotle. I hope you've seen that particular episode. He believed that drama should reflect life, but in a refined, structured way. Dryden insisted on a concept called verisimilitude, believability. So it has to be believable, but not dull. The realism cannot be dull. Number three, English versus French drama. So Dryden preferred English drama, Shakespeare, Beaumont, Fletcher, over the rigid rules of neoclassicism. Neoclassicism, for people who do not understand what that means, is there was an attempt in French literature to stick to the rules given by the classical authors. And because that movement came again, it was called neoclassicism. So people or writers who were trying to imitate the classical rules and structures in literature. So when it comes to English versus French drama, Dryden preferred English drama. He was far beyond and over the rules of rigid neoclassicism. Why? Because emotion, energy, and variety mattered more than just rules, is what Dryden felt. What did he think about the classics, the classical works? He said the classics are not untouchable. He respected ancient writers, yes, but he believed that they could always be improved upon. Criticism for him was a living conversation, not a frozen reverence. So why does Dryden still matter? Dryden gave English writers permission to question the rules and to make new rules with purpose. He made criticism respectable, not like today when it's become a joke, but he made it respectable back in the day. Criticism is supposed to be not reactive, but reflective, he said. He showed that a critic's role wasn't to tear somebody down or tear a work down, but to build understanding. In today's world, where criticism often feels like outrage and reviews are sort of boiled down to stars and swipes, Dryden reminds us that the best criticism is thoughtful, historical, comparative, and most importantly, it's generous in spirit. So, what can modern writers and readers learn from Dryden? Number one, balance emotion and structure in your work. Balance emotion and structure in your work. Engage with other traditions without any blind loyalty. Embrace criticism as conversation, not condemnation. And build arguments that are both informed and accessible. Dryden didn't just critique drama, he modeled how to argue with style and substance. Right? Not just stupid, illogical opinions or arguments which make no sense, which are not logical in any way. We see a lot of that on social media, we see a lot of that in football conversations where people are just coming up with illogical, irrelevant arguments and trying to justify a case. What's Dryden's legacy then? He paved the way for great writers like Alexander Pope, Johnson, S.T. Coleridge, and countless other English critics. He brought literary criticism out of academia and into public dialogue. So that's where it all started. Now we all do it. Social media has just taken it to another level. He also helped establish standards of taste, genre theory, and a tradition of English poetics rooted in clarity, wit, and rigor. A man who cannot write poetry himself, Dryden once joked, can still judge it well. He gave critics a voice and he gave the writers a mirror. This is Literary Lenses, and next time you read a review, remember, Dryden was doing it with more fire, more fairness, and probably better punctuation.